welcome to another episode of the Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Today, my guest is originally from Catalonia, but resident in the UK for several decades. Jordi Casmitjana is a zoologist who for over 20 years has worked in different aspects of animal protection, both freelance and for well-established animal protection organizations in different countries. He has worked for Wild Futures, the Born Free Foundation, the League Against Cruel Sports, CAS International, the International Fund for Animal Welfare, and PETA. He is most known for his involvement with the first successful prosecutions under the Hunting Act 2004. His development of an effective international anti-bullfighting movement, which led to the ban of bullfighting in Catalonia, and for his legal case, which secured ethical veganism as a protected philosophical belief in Great Britain. I'd like to introduce him to you. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, Jordy.
Hello. Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. What about you?
I'm doing good, thank you. I'm going to go right to it, okay? So what motivated you to become vegan?
Well, it's always been animals. I'm one of those animal persons. I am a zoologist. I always liked animals. I studied my degree in zoology and animal behavior. And the more I study animals, the more I realized there was something wrong. I studied, for instance, my PhD was in wasps, in insects. So the people, sometimes they just run away from them. They never look into them. But I looked into them. And the more I looked about their life, the more I realized how close they were to us, much more than you think. And the more I did this, the more I realized that two things were happening here. One is that they were very close to us, and the other, how badly we were treating them, like commodities, like objects, like things that don't matter. And that kind of made me realize I had to do something. I could not be part of this. And so I became an animal protectionist. In a few years, I worked in animal protection for several organizations. But at one point, I realized, hold on, I'm just trying to help some animals, but I'm consuming others, I'm eating others, I'm wearing others. That makes no sense. And I discovered veganism. I realized, okay, then I need to stop consuming animal products and then carry on helping animals. So that's how I did
it. I read the little story about the wasp, as you called it, a little individual. I thought that was a great story, and how it decided you were a safe person.
That's right. There was a wasp that I studied that was a guard in the nest, that was in charge to guard the nest, and saw me come in and look at me, and for a moment look and thought, should I sting this person? Should I raise the alarm? And realized I wasn't dangerous and judged me correctly. And to that point, I didn't feel I had been judged correctly by any humans, and yet that 1-inch individual judged me correctly. That's why I realized, okay, I have to change my view of the world.
I love that story. Now, in 2016, I think, something happened that made you initiate the legal action that led to the protection of veganism. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you got there?
Yes. Working in animal protection, I worked for many animal protection organizations. And in 2016, I joined an anti-hunting organization here in the UK. And in any company in the UK, when you join, you have to be auto-enrolled into a pension fund by law. And all vegans, what we do is every time that we buy something, we check the label to be sure that there are no animal products, even with financial products. So when I got auto-enrolled into that pension fund, I wanted to check where the money would go. And I investigated, and I was surprised and shocked to realize that it was going to companies I considered unethical. Pharmaceutical companies that test on animals, petrol companies, gas companies, tobacco companies. I complained. I told my bosses, who said they would change it. It took a year and nothing had changed. So eventually, I felt I had to tell my colleagues, especially my vegan colleagues, because you can't change your pension fund if you don't like it. And they didn't know these things. So I had to tell them. And because I told them, after I told them, I was fired. And then when I looked into this, I thought, well, actually, I've been fired because I'm an ethical vegan. I did this because I was an ethical vegan. I shared information with my colleagues because I was an ethical vegan. The kind of comments I got from my disciplinary hearing made me believe that it's that belief that made me that caused my dismissal. So I took them to the courts and took them to the employment tribunal for unfair dismissal. What I didn't know at the time, that nobody had done this before. I was the first person that had used veganism as a protected philosophical belief. Because in the UK, we have a law that's called the Equality Act 2010 that defines what's protected: age, gender, disability, marital status, religion, and also has philosophical beliefs. But it doesn't define what it is. It just says philosophical belief. So every time there is a new belief that hasn't been tested in court, the judge had to check whether that belief qualifies or not. So in 2019, that's what happened to me. A judge looked at my case, looked at all the conditions that philosophical belief have to fulfill to be protected, and concluded that yes, ethical veganism is a protected belief under the Equality Act, and yes, I was somebody holding that belief. And then the world find out, because nobody ever had done this before. It was the first time that happened. And the good thing is that not just me, but everybody that shares my belief was then going to be automatically protected as well.
And that's a wonderful thing that you did, that you stepped up, you spoke up, and and try to point out how this organization wasn't living to its, I guess, focal point of protecting animals, and then people such as myself who have a 401k and our monies are being invested, we don't even think about that where is it going, like you did. And I commend you for that. Now tell me, the protection is only applicable to ethical vegans and not other kinds of vegans. Can you explain that a little bit?
Right. So the term ethical vegan has been used from the 90s, 80s. And what it basically means is a vegan that follows the definition of the Vegan Society of Veganism, which was created in 1944. And they changed the definition a while, but eventually they find one in the 80s, which is a philosophy or lifestyle that seeks to exclude all forms of animal exploitation and cruelty to animals. All forms, not just those only related to diet or any other aspect of the life of anyone. So that means is the original definition. But of course, many people started using the word vegan only following part of the definition. For instance, only having a vegan diet, and that's it. You cannot stop people using the words they want to use. But what you can do is be sure that you can add an adjective to make a distinction between those that use the definition to the full and those that don't. And that's where the word ethical vegan comes into. Of course, for the judge point of view, if we didn't if we had not used the word ethical vegan, just vegan in general, he probably would not have protected veganism, because he would say, look, these people here that they're called vegans, but they don't have a philosophy associated to it. They just do it because of health, because of fashion, because of diet. So that would have been a problem. The lucky we had that word ethical veganism well defined before my case, so the judge could look only into those cases where the belief affects every aspect of someone's life, not just the diet. And that's why in my case, ethical veganism has been protected, but not other type of veganism.
And that makes sense, because if you just call yourself vegan, as you said, because you're just eating that kind of diet instead of actually living veganism every day, which is trying not to hurt animals in any way, that's a big difference. So I can understand that. Now tell me, what are the effects of the illegal victory on the public, government, and businesses?
Well, they're huge. They're huge effect, because the Equality Act 2010 not only affect the workplace. The major idea of is against discrimination. Is an equality law, so prevents people to be discriminated or victimized or harassed because of a protected characteristic, gender, age, religion, or in this case, philosophical belief. But it goes beyond the workplace. It goes into the provision of services, both public and private services. For instance, public services like schools, prisons, universities, hospitals, or private services like a hotel or like a pub or a restaurant or a bar. So you can discriminate clients or people going there because of their philosophical belief or the age or the gender. So it does affect a lot. And we already seen the effect of my case. Automatically after my case was successful, you could see HR companies advising their customers, their business people, to change their procedures and methods to treat the vegan staff better, to change the way they had the kitchens, to be sure if they do a group trip, they don't go to the zoo or to the races, they go to places that are compatible with vegans too. The firefighters in the UK now, they're provided automatically while they enroll an equipment that doesn't have any leather if they're ethical vegan, which before you had to fight for it, now automatically happens. So there are many changes now they're happening very quickly because this law now makes people realize that if a company doesn't follow these rules, then they might be sued and they might lose because there's a legal precedent behind this. So it's affecting a lot the UK, but it's also affecting the entire world because vegans exist everywhere in the world. Discrimination is the same everywhere in the world. Veganism is not really different when you change cultures. It's the same concept everywhere. Therefore, everybody realized that the idea of protecting vegans is applicable at any country. And now other people in other countries might try to do the same thing I did. If they feel if they were fired, they might try to go and use the current law to change the status quo of the protection. If the law in the country doesn't accept philosophical belief as a protected characteristic, well, they can lobby the politicians to make a change in the law towards accepting it in the future. So there's a lot of potential everywhere in the world, and that's why thousands of people were from all countries were interested in the news of my success.
Yeah, and I want to take this time to thank you and commend you for being brave, for speaking out, because as you said, if there's something going on, you have to talk about it, you have to share it so other people know it, and because there's vegans everywhere, and we have to just stand united, and it's a serious thing. It's not just a flimsy fad.
Yeah, it's an important thing to realize when you're vegan that you're part of a community. If you were vegan by yourself, you would fail most of the time trying to avoid animal exploitation because you would not have the information and the knowledge to know where are the connections between all the products you want to buy and animal exploitation. But living in a community, you can share this information. And the more we're looking into this, everyone looking at their own products and then sharing the information, the quicker you can learn, the better you can become a vegan. So a vegan, although you can become a vegan the moment that you decide to follow the belief, you don't get automatically, you're not perfect that from that day onwards. You need to improve by getting better and learning how to avoid animal exploitation. And all together, we can help each other by sharing information so we all can achieve that level sooner.
As soon as I went vegan, I realized that I was on a learning journey, because every day I learned something new about veganism that I might have not known. So that might mean that there's something, a product out there that I didn't know did not conform to the vegan style. And then I know to eliminate that. And it's a learning process.
Absolutely, it's a learning process. And I never feel that I will reach to a point that says, that's it, I learn everything. Every year in New Year's Eve, my resolution is, what else will I not consume this year? I always add more things every year. And I look into adding more things. So I never will find a moment I say, I need all these products. No, I can find better ways to survive with fewer products, with better products, and I still have a fulfilled life in the modern society. And that's my aspiration for the future.
Thank you so very much. I surely appreciate you being on the Vegan Pulse and taking the time out. And so it's raining in London, you said, so stay in, don't get wet.
Yeah, I have to stay in anyway because we are in lockdown. But yes, it is a nice that has been raining because it has been dry for a while. So plants will like that.
We're in lockdown too for now until the end of May, but thank you again for joining me. Thank you from all vegans around the world for being brave, stepping up and speaking up. Jordy, I appreciate you. Bye.
Bye, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Remember to follow us on Facebook, check out our new blog, and remember, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. Live vegan.